From Botticelli's The Birth of Venus, to Dr. Emily Town's work on womanist ethics, to Ariana Grande's God is a Woman, feminist theologies permeate faith communities, political debates, and pop culture.
Equality between all genders. This is the ideal at the heart of feminism. What does it mean to support gender equality in the context of our UU faith tradition? How do we articulate the blessing of women and their autonomy? The blessing of choice, the blessing of feminism.
How do we put our commitment into action? In what ways can we celebrate the diversity of gender in our congregation and in the world? Ponder these questions with us
In our new worship series,
Feminist Theologies.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. So glad you've joined us for our live stream worship, but there are people in this room. There's a choir over here. The energy's great, friends. It's very exciting. We got a band sitting right here. It's a whole lot of great energy in this room. We are so glad you have joined us. Our first hymn this morning, we hope you'll take from home, take part fully. Join us singing these songs, read along when the text is on the screen, and find a way where you can be totally present in this moment. Our first hymn that you should sing along very fully to is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Love will guide us, Jesus stride us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from creed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can live from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Jesus guide us. Hold inside us. Will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Amazing to be here. I am Reverend Taryn Strauss, Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, and I want to invite you and you into this room, this difficult, mundane film studio office park of a room. This room that we have crafted into a sanctuary we create together, one that is a container for all of our stories, the ones we share and the ones we hold close and quiet in our hearts, the stories that bring us joy and fulfillment, and the stories that break us open. The stories that change and grow with us, and the stories we outgrow and leave behind. Each and every one of you carries with you a lifetime of stories into this room as you enter this room each week. This morning, there may be stories from your life that surface in unexpected ways. And Barbara Begner will light a candle now to honor your story, whatever that may be. Your story of birth or not birth. And if you need some support after this service, please do not hesitate to reach out to our lay ministers. This service does come with a warning that we will be talking about very difficult and very sensitive topics related to reproductive justice. So please take care of your heart. And we do hope you choose to stay with us. What we do in this room each Sunday is a part of UUCA's core mission to transform lives through courageous action and soulful connection. So wherever you are from, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, I want you to know you are welcome here.
Good morning. We are so happy to reopen our sanctuary to the community. You are invited to join us for limited capacity in-person worship starting next week. Register now by visiting the events tab on Realm. On your Realm account, still haven't gotten Realm? Well, now is the time. Email Communications Director Shay Stewart to get your account set up. Neighboring Faiths has begun. Join the adult religious education team for this new series of speakers from Atlanta's Interfaith Speakers Network. For our next online session, which will be this Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., we'll focus on Islam. Registered nurse and nurse educator Shalina Merchant will speak to the core tenets of the Islamic faith and common misconceptions. Then, join us in person for our first Neighboring Faiths visit to the Monastery of the Holy Spirit in Conyers, Georgia, next Saturday, March 19th at 10:30 a.m. Check out the weekly updates for details. The email to RSVP is going into the live chat now. Through the live chat, we can express our love and care for each other. Please take a moment to say hello to each other and anyone else who might be visiting into this morning's worship. Wasn't that nice to say hello? The choir and people here, whoo, the energy's great. You can connect even more by joining our lay ministry team after the service and the Zoom social hour. We'll see you there. Once again, we are joyful that you have chosen to worship as a part of this special community on a beautiful Sunday morning.
Let's say our chalice lighting words together. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all who yearn for acceptance, and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
This morning, we dedicate this song to all those in Ukraine, all those Russians who are fighting for freedom for others outside of their country, and for people in war-torn countries all over the country, all over the world, excuse me. This is my song.
Song
The tradition of sabbatical for religious professionals is rooted in, oops, this might not be working. Yes? Oh, okay. So let me just see if it's on. It is. Okay, great, good. The tradition of sabbatical for spiritual professionals is rooted in the biblical concept of Sabbath, setting aside regular time to refrain from usual work patterns so that there's room for the different and deeper kind of work of spiritual renewal. It is meant to promote long-term relationships between spiritual professionals and congregations. It is also meant to ensure that the leadership of religious professionals is inspired and not, as Wayne Muller put it, a matter of rushing headlong towards doing anything that will make problems go away. Don is in his 14th year of service at UUCA, and so is eligible for 6 months of sabbatical time, which he will take starting March 14th and return on September 12th, 2022. So Don, on your sabbatical, we wish for you rest and renewal, many opportunities for discovering fresh ideas and inspiration. May you take this time to learn and explore, have great adventures and surprising experiences of grace and wonder, and receive ministry and spiritual care from others.
Beloved congregation, I promise to use my time away from you reverently, playfully, and creatively, honoring our mutual and sacred trust.
On behalf of the congregation, let me say that we promise you and one another to use this time of renewal well, too. We are grateful for the leadership of Leroy Kennedy and our sabbatical team, who will ensure that our UUCA music and arts programs stay strong and continue to delight and inspire.
It is with a sense of excitement and humility and gratitude that I embark upon this time for renewal. I am grateful for the leadership of this place that will keep things going strong.
Don, we will miss you so much, but we are bound together with each other and with you. We wish you a successful sabbatical. Go well, go enjoy, and peace and love. We will await your return as a refreshed and renewed director of music.
Me too. Thank you. Let us now rise in body or in spirit and join the Wingfield family in this morning's movement prayer.
First, we bow to honor the Spirit of life. Then we lift our arms, embrace the gifts of the Spirit. We bring these gifts unto ourselves with gratitude and breathe and smile. Share these gifts with the world. We remember to be present. Honor, embrace, gratitude, share, be present.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity, that we know serenity. Fill me with all vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me.
Let us put hands upon hearts and feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will heal the world. Now we hear the joys and sorrows of this congregation. Please hold longtime members Julie Weisberg and Howard Reese in your thoughts. Howard has recently moved to a memory care unit. This was a difficult decision for Julie. However, Howard is adjusting well, and they are still joining us for Sunday morning services. Contact information is in the weekly update if you would like to reach out. Please send love and healing energy to Patrick Golan. Patrick's sister Danielle passed away on March 8th after living for 50 years with schizophrenia in a New York State facility. Cards and emails are greatly appreciated at this time. Please continue to hold Ruth Gogol in your hearts. Ruth has been transferred to hospice at Emory Hospital. She is being visited by her UUCA family, and she loves knowing that we are holding her in love and sending her our energy. You are invited to say the names of people or places you are holding in your heart this morning. Write their names into the live chat or speak their names into this sacred space now. May all beings find connection. May all people find comfort. May all of us find more ways to be more loving to one another. As humans have gathered for millennia, so do we gather in our way today. To gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, and to remember that all beings are mysteriously and inextricably connected, and to feel that connection now. We still our bodies, and we still our minds. We take in a big breath, and we exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless freed, as thy comfort grows in me. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Good morning. So, since we were going to have choir members here today, I thought, why tell a story? Why not have an activity where we can involve some more people in the space? So, I'm going to invite those choir members who have offered to volunteer for this activity this morning. So we have Pat and Joyce and Kevin. Go ahead and come and stand in front here along the spectrum. And Kay and Terry, thank you all. So this is going to be a choice spectrum activity. So I will give them two choices, and they will either stand on the ends of the spectrum, which I'm going to call piano or choir, so piano side or choir side, to make it very clear. Or they can stand anywhere along that spectrum. The choices will get progressively more difficult. To confirm, they already know the first set of choices, but after that, they will be just as surprised as you. Okay, so for the first choices, chocolate on the piano side, vanilla on the choir side. Great, so we have a solid chocolate, and then we have folks who kind of like both. Great, okay, here we go. So now we're gonna have coffee on the piano side, tea on the choir side. Coffee on the piano side. A solid tea drinker. We've got all of our coffee drinkers over there. Excellent. Okay, now ocean on the piano side, mountain on the choir side. And again, you can stand anywhere along the spectrum. Excellent. Okay, so we're leaning more towards ocean in general with this crowd. Okay. Then on the piano side, we have dogs, and on the choir side, we have cats. Oh, yeah, so most like both. Yeah, I would be standing in the center there too. Okay, now on the piano side, we have paper, and on the choir side, we have plastic. Remember, you are making the choices that are best for you. Paper on the piano side, plastic on the choir side. So leaning more towards paper, but knowing that sometimes plastic is inevitable. Okay. Now, on the piano side, we have public transportation, and on the choir side, we have drive a car. Yeah, a little more of a harder decision to make there, yep. Okay, I'm gonna set up this next one. So you have 1 hour, and you've just gotten a call that you have an unexpected job interview for that job that you have been waiting for. And a friend also needs your help. So on the piano side, you have 1 hour to interview for that job, or on the choir side, you help a friend. Yeah, that's a hard one. Okay, this is your final set of choices here. So on the piano side, going to a protest and getting arrested for the larger good. And on the choir side, staying home for the safety of yourself and your family. So the point of this exercise was not to make the right decision, right? But to make the decision that is best or right for our volunteers, right? That's what they were doing, making the decisions that are best or right for them. And as you can see, that decision-making or that discernment can be really difficult. So many thanks to our volunteers. Thank you all.
Thank you, Don. Each week, Tony Stringer sends reminders to the liturgist and gives a brief sentence on the main idea of the service. This week, he wrote, "A UU theology of reproductive choice that includes the sanctity of life. Dominion over one's body is sacred and must be protected." Since 1963, 10 years before abortions were legal in this country and before most other religious organizations, Unitarian Universalists have supported the rights of women and their freedom to make faithful choices about their bodies and families. Our faith affirms the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the right of the individual conscience in decision-making, and respect for human life. Faithful choices, sanctity of life, these are important concepts. The anti-choice advocates seem to indicate that there is no emotional component to a woman making the decision to abort, no attachment, that the decision is callous, with no lingering emotional effects, and it's always our fault. From personal experience, I can tell you that that is not my truth. Many years ago, I was put in a position to make these very choices. And without going into detail, I can tell you that a sexual assault ultimately resulted in me having to make a reproductive choice. While these particular circumstances maybe made my decision a bit easier, it was nonetheless a faithful choice. I believe that the potential life inside me was sacred. The decision was not without emotion, but it was my individual decision. In today's world, this story would tell very differently. The UU theology on reproductive choice is only one of the many reasons why I chose to become a UU. UUCA is my safe place, allowing me to be honest and vulnerable. I hold a deep respect for human life, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and strongly believe in the individual conscience to make her own decisions. I will continue to fight in the hopes that women one day will once again be allowed the freedom to choose that was afforded to me. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
It has been 2 years and 5 days since the last Sunday morning the UUCA choir performed. And so I'm just so excited that they're here with us. This song that we are about to sing was planned for March 29th, 2020. We had been already rehearsing it when the world closed down. So we are excited to bring you this song written in honor of the Women's March on Washington. This is Rising for Our Lives. 2, 3.
Choice in the megaphone, hearts with a purpose, we rise to the calling inside. Another line won't resign, this is our time. Look around, hear the sound, we're an earthquake. We're fueling the currents, the truth is our fire. We are rising for our lives, they won't stop the tide this time. For our power is our light, and the strength to stand.
we are Exodus people now. The plagues, the oppressions, the floods, hell, and high water, it will keep coming in the days, weeks, years to come, and that will make us more vital than ever, more powerful, more clear, more missional than ever, able to bless this world with all that we have to bless it. So, blessings on you and this room and this congregation of Exodus people. Please join me now in the dedication of this morning's offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. This morning's reading comes from the poet Mary Oliver, an excerpt of her poem on Blackwater Pond. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Toni Morrison says, the function of freedom is to free somebody else. When I think of the blessing of choice, it leads me to think not only of our freedom, but also of other rooms in my life, in all of our lives, where decisions are made and ends and beginnings take place. I think of all those rooms we find ourselves in. As a young feminist in my 20s, I was part of a small group who started an abortion fund for people who needed abortions in North Carolina but could not afford them. I remember being on the phone counseling one young girl, age 13, who had been raped by a family member. She would not say who. The room she spoke to me from was her bathroom, where she was hiding with a phone, hiding from her family, who could not know anything about this, or she was sure she would be cast out, taken by the state, or brutally punished. There I was in my room, safe and free. I remember clearly the twinkle lights hanging around the ceiling as I sat on my bed in the room I rented in the house I shared with friends, as I went through the list of questions. Did she have some allowance money stashed away? Or anything she could sell to help pay for the procedure? A TV, some jewelry, or some clothes maybe? She had nothing. She was 13, and anyway, she couldn't let her family know she was selling her things because that would lead to questions. We wrote to the Ms. Foundation and received a grant that had to last a year. We got her the money, we found her a ride, and we helped her make a choice that kept her safe, housed, and free to continue with her schooling. All we had was a cell phone, early days of cell phones too, a big cell phone, and the will to ask for money so women and girls across North Carolina could stay safe and free. We planned it all in our own living rooms, just 4 people in our early 20s sitting on beat-up couches we'd bought from Goodwill, who got together to make something happen for other women in our state. See, we felt free enough to free somebody else. I know many of us have been taking in a lot of footage on social media of underground rooms, bomb shelters in Ukraine, where people are hunkered down now, trying to keep safe and sane. Well, there's one video in particular, maybe you've seen it, that is very difficult to watch. A young girl of about 5 years old stands on a chair in a bomb shelter filled with people, her neighbors possibly lying in repose or standing, looking visibly traumatized. She looks out into this community of those who have gathered for shelter, and she begins to sing in Ukrainian, and it's instantly recognizable as Elsa's song from the 2013 film Frozen, Let It Go. And if you think about it, and you listen to her, and you see her face as you sing it, you realize this is a song about autonomy and freedom and breaking out of hiding. With her large eyes and her bright smile, she sings her song of freedom to a room full of the imprisoned. Let it go, let it go, I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, you'll never see me cry. Here we stand, and here we stay. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered us anyway. Why do we still have to sing for our freedom? In 2022, why do we have to tell our stories up here to prove that our lives are worth fighting for? The ethical gymnastics that we must undertake to prove that we are a good-hearted, life-affirming people, even if we have to fight like hell for the one life we have left to fight for, our own. It's the rooms I remember the most. The waiting room, where I sat with countless women, girls, and people at FemCare, an abortion clinic in Asheville, North Carolina, founded by a wonderfully warm and loving doctor who eventually had to shut it down a couple of years ago when the constant bomb threats and death threats became too much for her and her family. But I remember the room. I remember gray waiting rooms with all the wrong magazines on the tables. I wanted it to be old issues of Sassy or new issues of Bust or maybe the zines that I knew some of the Asheville artists were making, but it was the wrong magazines. I remember low, dank ceilings and fluorescent lighting and the glum staff who just seemed to be worn thin by the constant stream of protests and threats every day of their working lives. I sat with women who wanted to talk. I sat with some people who wanted silence. And I remember other rooms, the sterile countertops of the anteroom where I worked at Planned Parenthood for a year, lined with urine samples, where I would take people's temperatures, blood pressure, and then give them the news that they were pregnant or not. I remember the sounds in that room of wailing, tears, and silent resignation that walked out of that room in equal measure. And then I would be alone in the room, just a witness to someone's freedom being wrenched from their life, someone forced to grow up a little faster and make a choice, heavy as the anchor they appeared to drag out of the room and out into their lives. Then there's the room where I spent a day last January 29th speaking to the Georgia Senate, who were in session to pass the budget that day. I was the chaplain of the day, or pastor of the day, as they call it, and I preached to them using the Georgia state motto as my primary source text. Politicians like to think of themselves as worthy of their state motto, which in our case is just 3 simple words. Maybe you know them: wisdom, justice, and moderation. On that pristine, original carpeted floor, I looked out onto the beautifully polished wooden desks and I preached the same words to them that I tell you now. The function of freedom is to free somebody else. They heard me that day. In that moment, they lined up to greet me. I mean, Republicans, Democrats, across the aisle. I stayed for quite some time. You can see it on YouTube or on their website. The moment actually landed more powerfully than I had hoped. But since that moment, they have heard other interests and different preachers who cannot affirm the blessing of choice and bodily freedom. At this time, held up in the courts at the moment is House Bill 481. It's a fetal heartbeat bill, stating that except in certain situations, physicians practicing medicine in the state of Georgia would be prohibited from offering abortion services to pregnant women if a fetal heartbeat is present, which typically occurs in the 6th week of pregnancy. Now, this is precisely the moment when a large majority of people learn they are pregnant. Most of the people I counseled in my years at Planned Parenthood and the North Carolina Abortion Fund, well, they were well past 6 weeks. In all likelihood, this bill will pass this summer or fall when the Supreme Court hears a similar challenge to Roe v. Wade from Mississippi. And if we are to meaningfully show up to the religious, moral, and ethical debate about abortion, well, I believe we must bring a theology that includes not only the pregnant person's life, but also the life that is emerging. A womb is like a room, too, isn't it? So much takes place there, or doesn't. In a room, people enter and they leave. So this is my theology of pre-birth. I believe that life will come. Life will find a way to enter into the family of all souls here on earth. A life that is meant to be will be. And in my life, I have had 4 miscarriages, 1 abortion, and 2 births. Well, technically 1 birth. But I believe my children were always going to come. Maybe they would be born to me, or maybe they would be born to someone else. The preborn is but an emerging soul, not yet emerged. A baby that is not born today will be born to someone else on a different day. Unitarian Universalism affirms all life. We uphold the sanctity of life. We care for the sanctity of a person's life to choose whether they want to carry a baby in their body. A person's body must never be treated as solely a vessel for another body, because that would render them an object, not a body at all. We uphold the sanctity of life in a universalist theology, declaring that a precious and holy life that is meant to be here will be. A theology of life's emergence. This is my theology. It may not work for you, but it does work for me in the context of our universalism. And I think that's a conversation we Unitarian Universalists need to show up to. Furthermore, we affirm the life of a child to have their basic needs met and a loving family who wants to raise them. Over 30,000 abortions were performed in Georgia in 2020. Is Georgia prepared to offer serious and substantial financial support to 30,000 mothers and parents? No such offer has been made. If anything, we have to fight tooth and nail to try to expand Medicaid and SNAP benefits for people who are raising children, to fight for programs that would offer the sanctity of life to a child in our state. The first bill my fellow clergy and I advocated for with the newly formed Georgia Interfaith Public Policy Center in 2019 was House Bill 345, finally banning the practice of shackling inmates while they are in labor. This was not made law until May 2019. Senator Sharon Cooper, a Republican lawmaker, said the bill restored a measure of dignity to pregnant inmates while they gave birth. A measure of dignity. How to measure the dignity of a person. However, these same legislators who claim to uphold the Living Infants Fairness Equality Act, that's what they call the Abortion Ban Act, they do not have a single plan to support living infants' rights to fairness and equality once they are born. The hypocrisy is overwhelming and leads us all into a state of moral decay, where lawmakers legislate to control someone's body while they are pregnant, and then after the birth, abandon them to poverty, homelessness, domestic violence, lack of adequate health care. Now, I powerfully believe abortion is a moral issue. As a Unitarian Universalist, as a person of faith who affirms and upholds the sanctity of life, I will fight for all Georgians and all people who get pregnant to be entitled to the blessing of choice. Without the right to an abortion, I would not be here today in the service of God and Spirit, serving humanity, working to bring about heaven on earth. I too found myself in a room, looking into the mirror and facing the inner knowing with the very core of my being that I could not bring a child into that room. It wasn't that I didn't want a child. In fact, I have always known since I was very young that I wanted to parent children. But at that moment, it wasn't time. I was too young then, too unsettled and unformed to be a good or even a safe parent. It was not too difficult of a choice. It was more of a gut feeling of no, not now. Though I knew deep in my heart and in my soul that this child was not scheduled to arrive at this time, it felt like every person I encountered in this process was committed to excavating some inner ambivalence or trauma or shame from within me. But there was none to be found, not even a fossil of shame. I walked by protesters on the way in, screaming at me, crying women in the waiting room, rude front desk staff who clearly were more ambivalent than I expected them to be. Even the cold nurse who told me legally we needed to have a sonogram and legally I needed to see it. It was my body. It was my life. And as far as I knew, it was the only one I would ever have. And I knew just as powerfully, to my core, that I wanted that body, this body in this lifetime, to bring forth new life. Just not yet. I remember even being on the table, looking up at the bright lights in the ceiling and talking to the nurses about my desire to reinvigorate a long-defunct local chapter of the National Organization of Women, a plan I actually executed in the months that followed. I remember asking the nurses, this is like as it's happening, asking the nurses and the doctors if they would come to the local chapter of NOW if I held it nearby the office. They asked if I wanted to lie back quietly. And I did not. No, I wanted to plan and scheme and use my freedom to free somebody else. Which brings me back to this room here. We can be sanctuary for more than just us. In the probable event that Roe versus Wade is struck down, abortion becomes mostly illegal here in Georgia, we can answer the call of our moment. We can. We can use our freedom to free somebody else. Unitarian Universalist congregations, Christian churches, and synagogues across Texas have organized to help ensure women's safe and free passage to New Mexico for their abortion procedures this past year. We must not allow the neo-fascism presenting itself in our legislatures to abolish our freedom to care for each other, to uphold and affirm all life, nor shall we allow it to extinguish our moral imagination. May this bright and beautiful flame you see before you and the many stories it represents remind us of the fire of commitment we carry inside to ensure that all people have freedom and agency over their reproductive choices, and that reproductive justice is upheld as a fundamental right for this and future generations. Because to live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things. To love what is mortal, hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go.
Song this morning. We have the text, "We have shared a radiant hour where the truth has set us free." Hope you'll sing along with the whole thing. This is Life Calls Us On. Here in reverence now we gather, lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Loyal guides in love and duty. Loyal guides leads us with a trusted love. Lead us. beauty. Blessed are they. Shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize that faith calls us all. Faith calls us all. Faith calls us all. Faith calls us all. We have shared a radiant tower. We have shared where the truth has made us freedom and the Spirit gracious power. Spirit of grace. Reap the good that yet shall be. Bright the path before us lies. Joyful pilgrims, now we rise. Life calls us all. 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 Calls us
I want to honor Barbara's precious story that you trusted us with this morning. I want to honor all the amazing musicians today. Thank you, Mark and John and Willie and Don. And to the choir, thank you. Thank you. Amazing, just so miraculous, really, to be with you. The function of freedom is to free somebody else. So go into your week and do it. Free someone, maybe with how you present yourself with your presence, maybe your story. There are a million ways to liberate each other. So go in love, go with power and freedom. Amen. Blessed be.